Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. This video is going to take a look at Sophie Hannah's Postcard from a Travel Snob. We're going to be looking at 5 key quotes from the poem, and I will be taking you through some analysis focusing on language, structure and form. So let's get started. Okay, so the opening line of the poem, I do not wish that anyone were here. So we start with a very kind of blunt tone. We've got a declarative sentence, and the negation of it, I do not wish that anyone were here, is what subverts the form of the postcard, because obviously the phrase wish you were here is a typical opening line or closing line of a postcard. So here Sophie Hannah subverts that form and has her narrator say, I don't wish that anyone were here. And this sets off the kind of point of the poem, the tone of the poem. The narrator believes that being isolated is the key to a successful holiday, and having people around him, ooh, no, that's all a bit unpleasant. This is developed through the way the narrator continues to present what he doesn't want from his holiday. So we've got another negation here. This is not a holiday resort. Now note that we've got deliberately vague language here with this place. Sophie Hannah doesn't reveal where her narrator is. It's any kind of remote place in the world. So this is not a holiday resort with karaoke nights and pints of beer for drunken tourist types. So note how the enjambment spills across these 3 lines, enjambment meaning run-on lines, which creates quite a ranting, fast-paced tone. It tells us about the way that the narrator is speaking. And that comes across through that plosive alliteration as well. Tourist types. It's quite a harsh sound. And although that's the only alliteration, we do actually have a lot of plosive sounds. The k, p, b, d, and then the t, t. So it's all quite forceful sounds. It's almost like he's spitting out his words with venom. And then we get this lovely caesura here, this hyphen, where it's almost like the narrator thinks about that for a moment. Oh, karaoke nights, pints of beer for drunken tourist types. Perish the thought. Now we've got this imperative sentence. It's quite old-fashioned language. Perhaps again telling us something about maybe the class of the narrator. Certainly wants to separate themselves from what they consider the sort of traditional Brits abroad stereotype of being drunk and singing karaoke. Now we get a little bit of detail about this place that the narrator is, although immediately compared with the kind of stereotypical package holiday. This is a peaceful place. So we've got alliteration here trying to suggest the kind of tranquility. Note again, deliberately vague, it's a place, we don't know where. And then we've got this lovely ironic statement that it is untouched by man. Except you're there, my friend. So this is a kind of stereotype of the going off to somewhere really remote and finding yourself, this kind of gap year behavior, this idea that it's almost like competition, who has been to the most remote place. But again, note the way that narrator then has to juxtapose this with their perception of what something ghastly, a ghastly package holiday would be. We've got another not comment. Not like your seaside town consumer hell. Now, this is nice, isn't it? Where we've got all of these little hyphens. This is what we call a compound noun, because he's taken all of these words and he's squished them together, making like as if this is one thing. Seaside town consumer hell. It's also a metaphor, isn't it? But look at the strength of this. A consumer hell. Consumer meaning as in where you just go and consume and you spend and you take things in, which again, it's ironic because how did he get to the place he was in? But yeah, very, very strong and emotive, the way that he views it as being like a hell. Very nice, this narrator. Nobody speaks English. Sweeping declarative statement there. Again, this narrator presents themselves as the oracle, that they know all. So all opinions or, assertions, they are stated as facts using declaratives. Nobody speaks English. apart from me. And we've got our parenthesis here. It's interesting who the narrator thinks that they are assuring, who is the rest assured who they're talking to, whether it's a like-minded person at home or whether it's in some ways almost reassuring themselves. Rest assured, I'm not your son and sangria, 2-week small-minded package Philistine abroad. Right, notice what's going on here. So we've got another compound noun, but it's so much longer, suggesting that he's having even more of a rant, that he's even more worked up. And again, the sound effects are coming through. Look at your sibilant, son and sangria, small. It creates a sort of sense of pace. And of course, we've got massive irony here, because he is suggesting, or the narrator is suggesting, that the people that go on package holidays are small-minded Philistines, when of course his view of the world is the narrow-minded view, because he's so judgmental. Notice that I keep saying he, and that is because my assumption, because the next little section I'm going to put up is that the narrator is a man. I reiterated this in my other video on context, content and form. Sophie Hannah is the poet, is the writer that is different from the narrator. She has constructed this character. And like a character in a book, it's not the poet herself. So she has made this narrator, who we assume is male, because they're in the water in trunks. I mean, obviously I know anyone can wear trunks, but I'm just going to make that assumption. Okay, when you're as multicultural as me, this is the last stanza, by the way, sorry about popping in a long quote, but I think it's worth it. Now, note the way that the narrator positions himself as someone to aspire to when you are as multicultural as me. Now, this assumption that he is multicultural, as in he knows a lot about lots of different cultures, again, massive lack of self-awareness here. But look at the way he undermines his own statement. Your friends become wine connoisseurs, not drunks. The impact of that verb become suggests that it's a change. So this is about his perception. He's saying, oh, and I'm very multicultural and grand. And so when his friends are drunk, he goes, oh no, they're not drunk, they're connoisseurs. Note how we're using low frequency lexis here, again suggesting his academic superiority and his intellect. Connoisseur simply means expert. So you're an expert in wine, you're not a drunk. It's just euphemism, isn't it? I'm not a British tourist in the sea. I'm an anthropologist in trunks. Okay, so we've got two declarative statements, again, very, very typical of this poem and of this narrator. We have another, I'm not, pointing out what he isn't. He doesn't want to be considered a tourist in the sea. He's an anthropologist in trunks. So again, subverting the conventions. Normally you would expect a postcard to have pictures of people in the sea, etc. We've got further low frequency lexis referring to himself as an anthropologist. Anthropology is the study of humans and the study of different societies and humans and the way that they interact. So we're using this low frequency lexis, but of course Sophie Hannah is poking so much fun of the narrator in this moment by creating irony, because obviously he is considering himself to be a great studier of mankind, whilst also revealing himself to be completely and utterly oblivious and ignorant to anyone other than himself in terms of the way that he lives. It's a poem about judgment. So this actually is all poking a lot of fun, but it is quite a scathing comment about snobbery, intellectual snobbery, as well as class snobbery. And of course, that shines through because it is set at a time where suddenly travel is far more available for people on lower incomes. And so it's this judgment about those kinds of holidays. But again, I know I've said it like 3 times now. Sophie Hannah is the poet. She is not the narrator. Okay, she's constructed this narrator so that she can make fun of people that behave this way. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Any questions, or if you want me to look at any of the other lines, just drop me a comment in the comments and I will get back to you. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you very much if you have. Happy revising.